Have you ever wondered, do I have a spirit guide or maybe an angel? Well, I'm Deep Blue and I'm the creative mystic. And I'm here to tell you, yes, you do. You have a spirit guide. And what I'm doing now is inviting you to join me in my sacred studio where I'm going to be creating Archangel Gabriel and the flying horse. And this spirit guide portal has come to actually want to bless you with the blessings, the guidance that all things are possible. And he's talking about miracles and that miracles are things that you don't think are possible. And he wants you to understand that they are. And so I'm going to be creating this spirit guide portal on a weekly basis. I've started it now, I think 4 or 5 weeks now where I've done it. And so I'm going to continue to paint weekly on Thursdays. So if you like this process of being in this sacred space, of seeing the creation of a spirit guide portal, please subscribe, turn on your notifications so that you can learn about the next live. All right. So again, I'm Deep Blue, and I call myself the creative mystic because I have found that creativity and mysticism, and you might call yourself a spiritual seeker or on the spiritual path, but combining those have actually increased and developed my spiritual gifts that I've never had before. And so I was given guidance by Archangel Gabriel to show the process of creating this spirit guide portal, because the spirit guide portal is a doorway for you to be able to connect with whatever spirit guide that you're seeing on the canvas. And this portal, this doorway, gets infused with the energy and blessings of the spirit guide that's coming to me. So we're going to start the whole process, and it's about creating the sacred space, not only here in my art studio, but wherever you're viewing this from, okay? Because sacred space is about feeling that connection, that vibration of the divine, of higher power, whatever you call your higher power, whether you call it God, Buddha, Allah, or you believe in spirit guides as I do, because we're all one. You know, the spirit guides are all the one. You know, people have asked me that, like, how do how are there spirit guides, but then there's God, and then there's angels. I hear we're all one. How is that? And I say, well, we all are one, but there are manifestations that come forth that help us when it comes in a certain form. And so when you have a spirit guide that shows up for you, it's because that form is something that you need, that's going to help you to grow spiritually, to manifest what you desire. Because what I want to spread, and this is what Archangel Gabriel is telling me to say now, even though this portal's not done, is that spiritual growth and manifesting are one and the same. You know, and then so it's not necessarily about manifesting all the different things, and there's nothing wrong with manifesting all the different things you want, because that's important. Because he wants me to share from my experience. I was fortunate to manifest a lot of things when I was young. And by the time I was like 30, I was going, there's got to be more to life than this. You know, I have the house and money and vacations and cars. And I was like, something's still missing. And so that's when I went even deeper into the spiritual path, even though I was already on it by 30, that I wanted to go deeper into what else is there, you know, and not just what else is there money-wise or making a bigger and bigger goal to achieve, but that there was something else I knew was missing. And so what Archangel Gabriel is saying is that he wants you to understand that if you're watching this, if you've tuned in, if you watch it in the replay or live, whichever it is, okay, that it means that you have something that next step you're meant to do. So maybe you already know what your purpose is and you're doing it. And maybe you don't even know what it is, and that you have to start to grow so you can get in touch with that. Okay. So we're going to invite in Archangel Gabriel here in a way together, because I want you to be able to actually invite Archangel Gabriel and the flying horse also into your space, so that the blessings can reach you, because even though it seems like, okay, there's this camera and we're in different places, time and space, there really is not that space when it comes to the spiritual vibration, the higher consciousness that the spirit guides, that God, that Buddha, Allah, spirit has to give us, okay? And so we're going to start with a prayer, and then ringing the bell, inviting in the spirit guides, and then we're going to invoke and infuse the blessings into the portal, and then we'll start painting. And usually what happens is, as I'm painting the spirit guide portal, some messages, some topics start coming through that they want me to share with you, because it's all about how do we have deeper understanding of the spiritual truth. If you've been on the spiritual path a long time, like I've been on it for 30 plus years, doing a morning and evening practice, you learn that there's no more new. That is about how do you get deeper understanding of the spiritual truth. And when I create these spirit guide portals, I get deeper understanding, because what I found that the creative process, when you combine spirituality, connecting with higher power, with the spirit guides, that it opens up a whole new level of understanding that doesn't always come when you're out in the busy life of day-to-day life, where you're trying to get the groceries shopped and bought, and get to work, and if you have kids, pick up the kids or clean your house. That when you actually sit down with the creative process and consciously invite in spirit to be with you, that I have found so many spiritual ahas and things that flow through that I just am amazed. And so that's why we want to invite this energy, this vibration into your space too, so you can experience it. Because it's not only about knowledge. So the Archangel Gabriel is going to give me some knowledge to share with you, something to share with my words, but it's also the blessings of energy, of consciousness, and that can filter through the camera. All right, so let's get going. All right, so let's just take a moment. And I'm going to do the prayer actually facing the camera, because I'm going to ring the bell and allow you to see the bell ringing and feel the vibration. But let's start with the prayer. And you can follow along or do your own. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, Great Spirit of the Universe, and Archangel Gabriel, and the Flying Horse, we invoke thy presence, and we ask that our hearts and minds be open and receptive to all the guidance and all the blessings. And we especially ask that our hearts and minds be open and willing to receive the guidance, to receive the blessings, and especially to receive the transformation. We ask that you come and bless us with the guidance to understand deeper and deeper spiritual truth, so that we can apply it in our lives in a more effective way, so that we can grow spiritually in consciousness and also in the ability to manifest our heart's desires. Om. Peace. Amen. And when I ring the bell, I invite you to invite in Archangel Gabriel and the Flying Horse into your space and say, hello, Archangel Gabriel. Hello, Archangel Gabriel. Hello, the Flying Horse. We invite you into our space. We invoke thy presence, so that thee may bless us, that we are one. That I understand deeper and deeper spiritual truth. And just say thank you. Thank you for coming to the spirit guides. And I'm going to light a ghee lamp. If you have a candle or something, I always recommend you light one. And I do a couple Sanskrit chants, invoking some spiritual energy. I do the Mahamrityunjaya mantra to bring in some healing energy. And I invite you, if you're live, to please go ahead and, announce yourself, give a shout out where you're from, because you never know where you might find someone who's local to you. So let's just start with doing 3 ohms. And if you'd like, you can join me in doing these ohms and infusing the blessings of Om into this spirit guide portal. Om. Om. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandham Pushtivadanam Urvarekabandhanat Mricho Mokshamamritat. Om Om Bo Om Bobaha Om Swaha Om Maha Om Janaha Om Tapaha Om Satyam Om Tatsavitur Varinyam Bhargo Devasya Dimahi Dio Yona Prachodayat. Om. And if you're new here, you haven't seen this before, this is Palo Santos. Helps clear any negative energy. I always like to bring it into your space. Clean our own energy. Emily, thank you for tuning in, even if you can't chat. I'll send blessings to you here with the Palo Santo, just clearing your energy, bringing in the divine presence energy. All of a sudden now it's being stubborn. I want to light this. So anybody who's, there we go, watching can actually bring in the smoke to bless yourself. Clean your own vibration of any negative energies. Uplift yourself with the spiritual vibration. So Archangel Gabriel was coming to me and before I even started and was talking about the idea of miracles this morning. And he was really coming to me and saying how the importance of believing in them, that and not believing like, oh, I hope this can happen, because that's how he was saying most people believe, is they think, like you think if you like do a begging prayer and you hope it can happen, that the miracle will show up. And he's saying the first miracle is your belief that actually can happen, that this can happen. I know it can. I may not know the how, but it can happen. And so he's saying that the first miracle is believing in things before you see it. So I think I've mentioned it in videos and stuff very many, many times, like the biggest programming that we get is that, I'll believe it when I see it. And it's the farthest thing from truth. You have to actually believe it, then you'll see it. And so he's saying that that's the first miracle, when you can actually stop going, I'll believe it when I see it. And you go, no, I'll believe it. And I know that means I'm going to see it. And so, oh, hey, Kainoa, thank you for coming. So he was saying how that it's really important to start to, in this time that together, that we want to start to focus on that energy, that I'll believe it, I believe it, and I know I'm going to see it. And so that's what the blessings that he wants to start creating today, he said, was I'll believe it, and then I know I'll see it. And because remember I told you the whole reason Archangel Gabriel asked to be created into a spirit guide portal was because of that. Hey, Christopher, thank you for coming. So is that I'll believe it and I know I'll see it. So that's the energy and the vibration that we want to infuse into this portal even more. And I should say that Archangel Gabriel's already been kind of just seeding that into my energy all day. This morning when I was meditating in the morning, Archangel Gabriel kept dropping into like my meditation, giving me little downloads of like about the miracles, and I'll believe it and I know I'll see it. Excuse me. And so he was saying to me this morning before we were even up here to let me see what you say here. Oh, thank you, Christopher. Amen to that. Yeah, because it's something that goes so against our programming that we have to start owning that I believe it, and I know I'm going to see it. And he's saying that that's why one of the reasons why he's coming forth, because remember he said earlier in one of the earlier lives about how he came forth because he wants you to start to believe that all things are possible. And he was saying how the beginning of believing that all things are possible is to start affirming that little affirmation, I believe it, and I know I'm going to see it. So right now, in fact, he's telling me, ask them to pick something that they haven't actually thought they could have it, or like you're like, how's that going to happen? Like you don't have the how figured out, and start to say whatever that is, I believe it, that XYZ. So I'd love it if you guys who are live, or if you see this in the recording later, to put it in the comments, like what's your statement. Now, if you don't want to share it because you want to keep it private, that's perfectly okay. But if you don't want to put it in the comments, at least write it down for yourself. Write it down so that you have it somewhere in front of you, that you can see it every day and say, oh, I believe XYZ. I know it's going to happen. So if you want to share one, I'd love to see it, but I don't want to make you do something that you really feel like needs to be private for you. And there's nothing wrong with being private. I tell people, like, it is important to give it voice. So that's why a lot of times I'll ask people to put it in the comments or something. But also, if you need privacy, because like I keep things private a lot of times, especially if it's a big, like dream that it's been something that's been harder for me to step into that I really desire, because I believe it and I know it's going to, be here. Some things I can easily do that, and some things are really hard for me to do that. I don't know if that's okay. Thanks for you. Yeah, thank you. Journaling is important. Yeah, journaling's my thing too. So to give it voice in your own journaling, in your own private bathroom or someplace where you can put it up at your altar. If you have an altar, I put up little post-its for me at my altar to remind me of like those bigger things that when busyness comes in from the day that you can put to the side. And so Archangel Gabriel was really saying about how, that he wants that energy to be here today. Because the creation process of creating Archangel Gabriel is not just creating this portal. What he's telling me right now is that it's actually helping you create your bigger self-concept, the higher consciousness you that is meant to be creating and creating. It could be creating artistically, but also creating in your life, like the desires that you have. And so he was saying that it's kind of all these different creative levels, not just I'm a creator of music or paintings, but what is it you're also wanting to create in your life, because he's saying that's the bigger canvas. And these are things I've never even thought about. So Archangel Gabriel is really coming through. He's saying how the bigger canvas is the canvas of your life, and what area have you not created in your life that you'd like to start to create in. Now, he's also encouraging you to do something like what he's saying, like what Deepa does, and he doesn't mean like creating spirit guide portals or painting. He's talking about like combining the creativity of some form that you like, or like whether it's, like Christopher, I know you like to play guitar. So it could be music or writing a novel or whatever it is, a poem. But even word work, if you do something like that, to bring it together, bring in higher power and your creative process together. So how I do that is when I'm creating this, I do all the rituals that you saw earlier, but also as I'm painting, I stay as open as I can to like their guidance. So if I do something and I think, in my little ego self, I made a mistake or it doesn't look good, I can just like, nope, it's going to work out. Everything works out for me. And we're going to see how this is going to make the painting, the portal more powerful, better. So. Yeah, thank you, Christopher, for your appreciation. So I'm going to start here. And I'm curious, I know not everybody is going to be live, but somebody sees this also in the future. I'd love to know, are any of you guys painters? Because if you are, and you don't have to be to enjoy this, I'm just saying, if you were a painter, I can give you some other tips about things that you can do too, just for painting purposes. But don't have to be a painter for the guidance of Archangel Gabriel to help you. So today we're actually going to have the whole first layer in, because this is the last part of the first layer that hasn't been put in, is the face. And the thing about Archangel Gabriel's face was, it wasn't a face like we have. There was no face. It was actually like light kind of coming out. I'm not going to put that in today. I'm just going to kind of paint in that light type of look won't go into the very end, one of the last stages. It's funny because when you paint a painting that's 3D, you have to work with the human eye, the way it works. Sometimes you see things and you realize it looks kind of funny. And I don't know about you guys, but I have a perfectionist side of me. I say I'm a recovering perfectionist. Are there any recovering perfectionists out there? I would love it. See if you share it in the chat. See if there's more of us than we think, huh? Yeah, I'm a recovering perfectionist that sometimes it takes over and I have to like let it go, and sometimes Christopher, you want to start painting. I don't know what Bob Ross is. But yeah, Bob Ross. Oh, Bob Ross. Because there was no space between. Yeah, he did amazing things. Yeah, Christopher. I got one perfectionist in there too. Yeah. But I found when I adopted the term recovering perfectionist, made a huge difference for me to let go of that color's not working. That perfectionism can kind of freeze you up and get you stuck where you're not moving forward. And I did this, I used to do some speaking years ago, public speaking, and I had this one speaker, she had said she was a perfectionist, so I really related to her. And then she said what she uses to get herself beyond the perfectionism was the phrase, done is better than perfect. So whenever I would see that perfectionism coming up, I would do that. I would say, oh, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. So that I could let go of it, and stop getting caught in the perfectionism. That would kind of freeze it up. And I have seen people who like art studios I've gone to, and who are painters, and just watch people in their perfectionism kind of freeze them up. That creative flow, because they're trying to make it too perfect. So I have found, if you give it over to Spirit to paint the painting, the perfectionism goes to the background. So I do a little prayer, letting my little self aside, and let the great light and flow of whatever spirit guide I'm creating to come through and paint the painting. And I can always tell when I'm not in it, if I'm looking at the painting and I think something is good or bad. Because in Spirit's eyes, a spirit guides aren't telling you good and bad. They're telling you about energy, like, where is the energy flowing? What does it look like it? That's how come when a lot of people want predictive stuff, like, I don't do predictive things for people when they come to work with me. But I tell people that, what to do predictive stuff is because it's telling you, like, you're talking about what's happening with the energy, and you don't ever know whether someone has a consciousness shift and all of a sudden shifts their energy. So it could be looking at one way there for a little bit, and then because they have something that they go to something, like maybe you come here sometime and something gets said, or you just feel the blessings from that spirit guide that's here to bless you. And all of a sudden you look at it a little bit differently. You see something differently, life differently, a challenge in your life differently, whatever it is. And then that perspective shift, which I call consciousness shift, then means you've just changed the course of what's going to happen in your life, because you're now viewing it differently than you did before. Anybody ever have something like that happen where you have an aha? I call them spiritual ahas. And then you all of a sudden see the course of your life kind of changing. Oh, Christopher, were you thumbing that up? 100%? Ah, cool. Yeah, you just never know. So I got some guidance to do the background to bring some yellow into this. And when I came earlier, I was like, oh, it kind of makes me feel scared. See, that's the little self of me. But I'm going to start doing it, and we're going to see what happens. I got to mix a little bit of color to make it happen. But we got the first complete level in. Obviously not done, but the first layer, I should say, is actually in. gonna So Archangel Gabriel is asking me to ask you guys, is there a particular area that you have found to be your biggest challenge when it comes to letting yourself step into something being possible that you've been thinking it can't be possible? And to share that question. And Archangel Gabriel is saying that he'll answer it through me. Like, he'll give me the guidance of what it is you're wanting to hear. Well, I shouldn't say what you wanted to hear, because that's not saying like giving you just whatever words you want to hear. But what he's saying is that he'll give you the answer to the question that you have a question about. So if you want to put that up there while I'm mixing paint, I'll be happy to look at it and then tune back in. But we're going to work on the background some more now that we're going to see what happens. Krista, thanks for sharing that. You've been afraid to go live and play. Also going forward to building and putting your business out there. Also trusting more. So that's your challenge. Do you have a question in there? Like, how do I do that more? How do I get over the fear? I'm curious if you have a question to that, because Archangel Gabriel is wanting to actually help you with that. Christopher, too, I don't know. I can't remember if you were here on the very first live I ever did, but this was scary for me to do this, because I was used to painting in my own private little sacred art studio on my own. And I wasn't used to letting people see. And I felt like, ooh, people are going to see if I make a mistake, and that, like, the way I grew up was not considered something good to make mistakes in front of people. Like, I had a family that it was all about doing well and doing your best, and was never about like, you want to come and be competent and showing that you're doing a good job, an excellent job, not an incompetent job. And I felt incompetent when I would let people see my mistakes. So like, even this would be seen like, oh, it doesn't look like it makes sense, but that's what I'm being guided to do, so I'm going to do it. And that's the thing about when you create things, and Archangel Gabriel is saying this, when you create things in your life, we judge the process before the process is done. And because of that, we never get to completion. Like, you have to let it go through the full process before you can actually tell whether something is working or not working. Does that make sense to people? And if you have a question about that, feel free to put it in there in the comments or anything like that. Maybe it's fear of making a mistake or not being good enough. Also letting go of guilt for not doing it sooner, letting go of heavier energy and not being in the best version of me. Okay, so you want to, how can you step into your power more? All right, well, that makes sense. That's a good one. We're going to ask Archangel Gabriel, like, what's. Archangel Gabriel is saying that he totally gets what you're saying about the not being good enough and the fear. And what he's asking you to do, he's saying, is to be willing to have fear. That's what he was like. I was trying to figure out exactly what he was. He was like, you got to be willing to have fear when you're in the human body. He says you're wired to have fear. It's meant to help keep you alive. You know, like you need it for certain things to make sure you stay alive. And he's saying that that we've been programmed to think that we're not supposed to have fear, and that if we have fear, that there's something wrong with us. You know, that, you know, why am I having fear? And he's saying that every person in the human body has been programmed with fear, and that you have to start to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with that fear. Now, he's not saying to totally ignore if you have fear, because he's saying that it is there for a good reason. It helps with survival instincts and all these different things. But he's saying that you have to get okay, when, especially when you're stepping into like your big purpose of why you're here. He's saying you gotta get okay with feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. And he wants me to share, and you may have heard this before because I know you've been on before, but he wants me to remind you because he wants you to get, you know, how I always say, remembering is one of the big things with being on the spiritual path, is you have to remember the spiritual truth. You have to remember to apply that spiritual truth, because, you know, we hear about it, but then we don't actually apply it in the way that it's meant to be applied. And the only way that you can start to step forward on that big vision of wanting to put yourself out there is to allow yourself to be in fear. Allow yourself to feel it, but for it not to determine the course of action that you take. And he's saying that's part of growing spiritually, is, you know, like people a lot of times want to have these great spiritual experiences, and he's saying that when you start to have them at first, because you've not had them before, if you're new to it, they'll scare you, and he wants you to get that. Like when I was first given, they won't scare you necessarily when you first get the guidance, but you're going to get scared when you get out of the guidance. And so he wants you to get that. He wants you to understand that fear is a part of that spiritual growth. I'm going to step back, because part of what you learn with painting is you have to step back and look at it from a distance, not just always close up. So, so he's telling you, Christopher, that to let yourself feel the fear. And but and here's the big but you got to still make the commitment to move forward on it. And he's also saying that it's never too late, and you've never ever missed your opportunity, and waiting till now is obviously like the perfect time for you, that before you weren't ready. So he's telling you to stop thinking that you've missed the boat, or that you've waited too long. And he wants you to, if you're willing, to put yourself out there. Like make a commitment. Like I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to let myself, and this is what he's saying. He says, I'm going to let myself fail. And what he's not saying you're going to fail. What he's saying that is that when you let yourself say, I'm going to let myself fail, you then take the pressure off of having to be great. So I'm curious, Christopher, does that resonate with you, what the message that he's giving about letting yourself fail and that? I thought this was going to be like a portal, that it was coming through like a hole, but it looks like they want me to create something different here. That's what we're doing. All right, Christopher, you're welcome. I love it. When you come on, you tell me the next time you scheduled a live, and you're going to be doing it. I don't usually talk about this in here, but I do, just so people know, if someone's looking for a spiritual coach, mentor to help, with some kind of big vision thing, I do coaching, mentoring programs for people. They're 6-month programs to help, because I think that I found, and I have my own coaches to help me, is we all need someone to help reflect back to us, our greatness, what it is we're here to do, because it's so easy for us to not see it. I always tell people we all have a blind spot. Anybody know what that blind spot is? Love it, see it in the comments. Tell me what you think the blind spot that every human being on the planet has. Every one of you has it. I have it. Whoops. And this is why I put sheets on the floor. If you're a painter, I encourage you to put sheets on the floor. Oh, you're welcome, Christopher. Yeah, definitely. Our worth and self-love is something that we have. But, that's not the blind spot. It is something that we all have a challenge with, though. But our blind spot is ourselves, seeing ourselves. And if you think about it, okay? Nobody's ever seen their own face. You can't see your face, right? Now people will go, oh, yeah, I have in the mirror. And I'll go, well, no, that's a reflection of your face. And that reflection will look like the quality of the mirror. So if you have a funny looking mirror or a warped mirror, it makes you have a warped looking face. So, because your eyeball's inside your head, you've never seen your own face. And so the reason why I say that is because we have a hard time seeing our own things. We have a hard time seeing our own blocks that we have. We have a hard time seeing our gifts that we have. We have a hard time seeing it. And actually, because we've been taught to minimize, and that it's, arrogant to say you're good at something, we've been taught to not think that we're good at anything. I'm going to step back again, so I'm going to be coming back out a little bit. Just for a second. I'm going to hang on 1 minute. I'm still here, but I have to step back and look, because it's totally different than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to keep that portal look, but I was given guidance to do it this way. Oh, kind of, thank you. Interesting lighting, too. I'm not sure what you mean by lighting, Christopher. I avoid the feelings of being overwhelmed. There's a list of things I can and need to do, but feel overwhelmed and get upset, and then I get stuck and not do anything. I understand what you're saying, Kainoa. You're not alone with that. I think that happens for a lot of people. Let me ask Archangel Gabriel and find out what he has to say about that. So he's saying that when you get stuck or overwhelmed, this paintbrush might be too big. It's because you're thinking too far in the future. What he's talking about is that he's saying it's so important to practice keeping your energy in the present moment of just like, what do I need to do at this moment? Not the whole big list of what has to get done. Oh no, if it's not done on time, it means that, something's bad's gonna happen. He says we've all been kind of programmed to catastrophize in the sense of, people will sometimes say, oh, like I expect the best, but prepare for the worst. And Archangel Gabriel is saying, you can't expect the best and preparing for the worst. If you're preparing for the worst, then you're expecting the worst. And so he's saying that you want to start really allowing yourself to actually expect the best. And that the overwhelm comes because you're stuck in the belief at that moment that you're not good enough. Now that he says that's not what's going through your mind, but he's saying that that's what's going on. Oh, will I get it done in time? Can I do it? I don't know. That all comes from the I'm not good enough. And he's saying that you really want to embrace your miracle self. He's saying that he wants you to start getting up every day and saying that I am a miracle. And he's saying that to actually everybody who watches this. Get up and start saying, I am a miracle. Because he says you actually are. Think about it. The fact that that fact that you were born into a body and that you can talk and speak and you have a brain, it's like a miracle. And he wants you to start affirming the miracle in like being born. Just if you see babies of any kind, it could be human babies, animal babies, it's when you see it all happening, it looks like this miracle. And so he wants you to start affirming to yourself that you're a miracle and to start believing that. Because if you're a miracle, that means, of course, I believe it and I know it's here. Yes, Christopher, and that's so true because distortions that you can't see yourself. Light in regards to, mirrors. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. So anyway, so if anybody is looking for a coach, I don't usually talk about this here because this is more about being a creative mystic, but because you mentioned what you're talking about, Christopher, I'm going to tell you, I offer what I call a next step connection call. And it's just a time that it's no cost, it's complimentary. If you want to connect with me to find out are we a fit? I am looking for a coach, somebody to help me through this and start to actually manifest what I really want to do, not just what I think I can have, to feel free to take advantage of it. You just have to go to deepaloo.com/gift. And that's GIFT. So Kainoa, I'm wondering, did that message resonate with you? Did you have another question to it? Does it, what does it bring up for you? It might bring up some fear or discomfort. I had a client years ago that I encouraged her to look in the mirror and tell her that she loved her, to say I love you in the mirror. And it brought up so much for herself, she couldn't do it. She was just like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. Because she had so much inner, like, she probably wouldn't have used the word self-hatred, but she had a lot of inner self-hatred because she couldn't even say to herself that she loved herself. So, I always talk about the importance of self-love and healing on the spiritual path, because you can't ever get enlightened and grow and be God realized if you're hating yourself. I know. Oh, I'm glad. Okay, cool. I'm glad you're willing to try it. Kind of. That's great. Oh, you allow. I understand. Kind of. It's not easy, but self-love is one of the most important things to spiritual growth. And people don't even think of it that way. They don't think, oh, spiritual growth and self-love or healing come together. But I'm a believer that you can't grow spiritually. And that's what I always get from my spirit guides is you're not going to grow spiritually if you're sitting there hating yourself. And you might not use the word hate, but if you're sitting there calling yourself stupid or this or that because you didn't, do something right, that's a form of self-hatred. Calling yourself names, thinking that something's wrong with you because it didn't quite work out. And the thing is that the thing I've seen in life is sometimes the very thing I think is like the worst failure is the thing that leads me to the very thing I want. So I want to encourage you that that even when it doesn't look like it, see, that's the thing about I believe it and I know I'm going to see it. You have to believe it and know you're going to see it, even if all the evidence, all the physical evidence you're seeing shows you that it hasn't shown up yet, or that maybe even it's not going to happen if you looked at what they call factual evidence, because we don't ever know. My first experience of realizing that truth was when I was in my 20s, when I wanted to buy a house before I was 30. I had this clear intention. I want to buy a house before I was 30 in one of the most expensive housing markets around. I lived in the Bay Area in California, and one of the most expensive housing markets. And I wanted to get that house before I was 30, and I was saving $50 a month. And I was like, at this rate, it's not going to happen by the time I'm 30. So, and then I had a job and I was saving some money, but then I got laid off from the job. And I was upset and crying and being upset about it. And then but then it took a whole process. I'm not going to tell you every little thing about the process, but then I finally came to a place where I got another job. It was an outside sales job that everybody had been telling me I should do, but I was too afraid to act on it. I wanted that safe, secure paycheck. I didn't want to have to be on straight commission. And so I just wouldn't take that leap. And Spirit had another idea. They're like, you're taking this leap. And so it was the best thing ever happened to me, because I then all of a sudden now was making enough money to put a bunch of money away and was able to save the money for my house in a matter of like a year and a half or something like that. I got the money together and was able to do it within a couple of years, I think it was. I'm not good with spans of time, so but it was like two couple years. It wasn't like a long period of time. So I kind of like it. It looks a little. I thought it was going to be that portal, and I got something else to do. So we're going to see what else I'm being guided to do. Oh, let me see what you're saying, kind of. Oh, so good, kind of, that you're starting to letting go of the hating yourself. That's kind of know this is something I've been practicing for off and on for years. I'm back to back on again. But I have times I do it and then times I forget. And how I tell you about the spirit's path is remembering. Um, but it's to love everything in my life. Because what I realized by being willing to love everything in my life, that everything in my life is a reflection of me. So when I hated anything that in my life, I was actually hating me. And then I had to let me love everything in my life because it's me. And now I'm not going to say I don't have any still at myself, because I do sometimes, especially if I'm tired. But by far, it has diminished by leaps and bounds from what it used to be. And also when I see myself not like something in my life, I go, oh, gotta love everything in my life because it's me. I'm gonna love me because this is what I got, me. And then that makes it so that I can have a bigger heart and open heart to other people. When I'm not hating myself. Let me see what you got to say here, Christopher. Christopher sales. Yep. It was something that brought me lots of financial success, and I loved it for years. And then after I did it for many years, I was like, oh, there's another step. And that's when I went into my own business. And first I was a financial person, and then I went to that from there to doing spiritual stuff. And, having your own business, because Christopher, you mentioned about having a business. It's like being a salesperson. I tell people when you're a business owner, you have to sell. There's no one selling this stuff. You have to learn how to market your business and go out and make connections because it's about connecting. Because there's not anybody who's going to go and sell your stuff for you. And when you're a small business, when you get to be a bigger business and you have, hire people, that's different. But when you're a small business, you're just starting out, you got to be willing to share. So you got to be willing to sell yourself in the sense of you're not selling convincing. The reason why people are afraid of sales is they think of sales, a salesperson being like a pushy, car salesperson that tries to get you to buy it even though you don't want it. And that's not what sales is at all. And that's what I tell people, anytime someone wants to start their own business. This is way off track from what we usually talk about with the spirit guides. But I'm it's just, Christopher, you've talked about your own business and maybe going into sales, is that sales is about asking the right questions so you can understand the person that's in front of you, what they're needing, what their problem is, what they need help with, and offer them a solution. And that solution is not always you. So when I was in sales, I would ask the right questions and then I would sit and listen a lot. Let the other person do all the talking. I'd sit and listen. And then they said something that I need clarification. I ask again, ask more questions, listen. So there's more listening involved in good salespeople than there is talking, than there is trying to convince. And then you listen and then you try and you help to solve the problem that they're having. The problem may be that they just want something, but the problem could be that maybe there's nobody that's been able to give them a solution. And so you offer them a solution. If that solution is something you can do, of course you offer yourself. But if it's not, I would refer someone I don't do that, but I know so-and-so that does, and refer them to that person. And so they, in turn, might refer someone to you because you were so helpful. And even if they don't, I tell people, when you put out a cause, see, this is one of the big spiritual laws that's out there, always operating in your life. It's the law of cause and effect. If you put out a cause, then there's going to be an effect. It may not come from that person. It may drop out of the sky. I've had things just all of a sudden, boom, there's an appointment on my calendar because I like I talked about, I offer people the next step connection call. And I didn't even do anything recently. I might have done some things before, and then it'll show up. So you just have to hold something's there. It's going to be there. I believe it. And of course it's here. So let me see. So yeah. So we're going to hold off there and stop there till next Thursday. We'll be here live next Thursday with Archangel Gabriel. If any last questions, go ahead and put them up before we sign off. I'm not going to sign off until I give you a few minutes. But But yeah, we got the first layer in Archangel Gabriel and the flying horse. I'm going to start working on some of the finer details next week and see what they tell me to do and what to share with you. Any last questions, though? Go ahead and put them up. And next week, when you come, I'd love to see if you guys applied the messages from Archangel Gabriel. That was not planned when I started to come on that was going to happen. But as I was working with him, he's like, ask people these questions. I'll answer some, give them some guidance. Thank you for today's session. I love the warm yellow filling in. Thank you, Kainara. Thank you for sharing. And, you guys make this so much fun for me, showing up, making comments, shares. And this, when I first started doing this, I was like, I don't know. But I really enjoy this time with you guys, and I'm so grateful that you guys take the time out of your day to come and be with me and the spirit guides, Archangel Gabriel. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. All right. Thank you, Christopher. Love your appreciation and your gratitude. All right. Have a miraculous week, and we'll see you next week. Blessings. Oh, thanks, Emily. I didn't know if you were still there because I knew you said you're listening from work. So maybe next time you can share what work you do. All right. Take care, people. Bye-bye.